I'm Coach Erin. This video is for my moms who are considering going back to exercise postpartum. So whether it's your first child or it's your fifth or sixth, we really need to look at this exercise and building this technique first before we go back to our regular exercises. So what is it? It's breathing. If you didn't already notice by the name of my channel, Breathe Well Coaching, I'm Erin. I'm a physiologist, a yoga instructor, breathing coach, and a pregnancy and postpartum corrective exercise specialist. What that means is I am all about women's health. I've had 2 children of my own. I've suffered postpartum anxiety and panic attacks and sustained a pelvic organ prolapse in my second birth. So I have gone through the ringer here with not having a good breathing pattern and really seeing the effects. And I'm a physiologist, so before all of this happened, and seeing the effects of really starting too soon, starting too quickly. And my goal is to help as many women as I can not go through some of the same things that I went through. And so for me, so many people, so many even OBGYNs, doctors said, do your Kegels, or Kegels, however you say them, you know what I'm talking about. Strengthen the pelvic floor. Well, I actually had a tight pelvic floor, overly tight. I had had kind of a traumatic birth in my mind, and it was very difficult and very hard on me, and my breathing pattern completely changed. And so I really had to learn. I did not start to have real significant healing until I reestablished my breath. And I definitely did it in the wrong order. So what I'm trying to do and promote with my clients is to do it in the right order. So if you're 6 weeks postpartum or 8 weeks postpartum or however long, 3 months, 11 months, I encourage you to not jump right back into the exercises that you were doing while you were pregnant or before you were pregnant, but to really consider your breath as the starting point, the foundation of your exercise or your really mental health moving forward. And I'm not a psychologist, but again, I've gone through this personally, and I know how important breathing is to actually help us with stress management techniques and also prevent us from injuries, physical injuries. So let's get into it. When you are pregnant, and you know this, you're carrying the big baby here in the front, and what happens is your ribs expand to create space for the growing baby. So they expand outward. Obviously, that creates a lot of tension in the back, a lot of pain. You've probably felt that. And they kind of flare up. So that leaves our diaphragm muscle, our primary breathing muscle, it gets pushed up a little higher into our body. So it kind of gets set up. Then we start to really, a lot of us will end up in a shallow breathing pattern, breathing from our neck and our chest, just really high up. Instead of using the diaphragm, inhaling, letting it expand and drop down on the inhale so that our ribs expand, our belly stretches a little bit, our low back gets a nice stretch, and our pelvic floor stretches as well, an eccentric stretch. So when we inhale, we should have a 360-degree expansion on inhale. But if you've carried a child and everything's kind of moved up a bit, you probably even felt maybe shortness of breathing towards like the 3rd trimester, really starting to feel the impacts of that shallow breathing pattern. A lot of women will switch to a mouth breathing pattern, so they'll stop breathing from their nose. They'll be sucking in that air through the mouth, which creates a lot more stress in the body. It sends a sympathetic response to the nervous system, so we get that sympathetic response versus a parasympathetic. So sympathetic is fight and flight. It's our stress response. It, activates our system. The parasympathetic is our rest and digest, calming, restorative type of nervous system. If we are breathing through our mouth in a shallow breathing pattern, we're really activating, even in our day-to-day movements, our day-to-day life, we're activating the sympathetic nervous system. So we want to start to breathe through the nose, especially if you're postpartum, before you begin any exercise, and reestablish that 360-degree breathing pattern. I also see a lot of my clients who are inhaling And you can try it yourself. They're sucking in when they inhale, lifting up with the shoulders. Sometimes we call this like a vertical breather versus horizontal, which is how we want to breathe. So it's a vertical inhalation, also known as a paradoxical or a reverse breathing pattern. So if you are inhaling and sucking in, you're pulling that diaphragm up even higher. And so again, stimulating more of the sympathetic nervous system response. You're in a way sending that stress signal to your body. So really, ladies, especially my ladies who are struggling with anxiety and stress postpartum, like please hear me here. Start with your breathing. Maybe just set a timer, lay down on a mat, stretch out, and just breathe that 360-degree pattern. I know it doesn't feel like you're doing a lot, but when you inhale and expand 360 degrees, allow that diaphragm muscle to drop down. That's what causes the ribs to flare out. Let your belly expand out. I know you might be trying to wear all those high-waisted, pants and stuff like that. That's going to constrict your breathing. We need to let it out and we need to breathe. Reestablish that. Inhale, expansion, and then exhale. Really slowly exhale. Take your time exhaling. This also sends a relaxation response to the nervous system. So taking a long exhale, 8 seconds, 10 seconds. And that's actually, when you draw in, it's naturally reestablishing that core connection with your breath. So you are doing a lot from a physiological standpoint and a psychological standpoint when you just lay there and you give yourself 10 minutes a day of proper breathing. On my channel, I have a lot of different videos on these breathing techniques. You might do some box breathing, which is really slowing your breathing down. You might try 4-8 breathing, but we want to get into more of a slower nasal breathing pattern, 360-degree expansion on that inhale, and naturally drawing in. So you feel the stretch on the inhale. I know we were told a lot, Kegels, or Kegels, however you say them, tighten the pelvic floor. Well, that's not very helpful if you're really stressed, mama, and you're coming off of a hard delivery and you're dealing with a newborn and maybe other children, because you might be experiencing too much tension in the pelvic floor. We need to be able to relax. Inhale, expand everything, stretch that pelvic floor, and then exhale, everything kind of draws up and in naturally. So take some time with that good breathing pattern. Your breath is always with you. This is something you can practice throughout the day. I, with my second child, was able to practice when I was breastfeeding, when they were sleeping. I was able to really start to work on that better breathing pattern down the road after I had to learn the hard way. So don't be like me and jump into exercise too soon, push yourself too hard. Take the time to reestablish a good breathing pattern, a slower breathing pattern through the nose that's not going to stress out your body, because ladies, having a child is a trauma. The labor itself, a C-section, like the whole thing leading up to it, you're worried about the health of your own baby, you're worried about your own health, you're worried, there's just so much going on, and it's painful. It's from a body's standpoint, like it's the most painful thing you'll probably ever do. So that can kind of change our breathing pattern. Trauma changes our breathing pattern. It moves us into a shallow breathing pattern from our mouth. And maybe that's a little exaggerated, but a lot of times I'll see my women who come in, they're breathing in a paradoxical reverse breathing pattern from their mouth, breathing 19, 20 breaths a minute, when really we need to be breathing less, slower. So that's why I have you slow down your breathing pattern. Let's try to get 8 to 12 breaths a minute, a lot more slower breathing pattern. And if you've never checked that, set a timer. It's hard to check yourself. It's hard not to kind of change your breathing pattern, but you could see how fast you're breathing throughout the day. So your breathing pattern matters so much postpartum, and so many women are just jumping right into that exercise. So what can happen if you do that? And I know this is a long video, but if you're still with me, I'm glad you're interested, and I'm really happy for you because I know that you can take these simple techniques, breathing through your nose, breathing 360-degree diaphragmatic pattern, slower breathing, and it's going to make a huge difference in your life. If you just keep working at it, nice and slow, take your time to implement this. Set a timer for 10 minutes a day. Just lay down and breathe. You need that break physically and mentally. So do this for yourselves before adding a bunch of extra stress, exercise, onto your already overworked body. Okay? Naturally restore your core before adding a bunch of resistance and doing a bunch of body weight stuff and running and all those things that really do need a good core. Give yourself the time. Restore the breath first. All right? Because if we don't, we can have those pressure management issues where our breathing pattern, maybe we're sucking in, maybe we're holding the belly in all the time. Well, that's going to put more pressure down on the pelvic floor. So then when you go to lift your child, if you don't have a proper breathing pattern and inhale, expand, exhale, draw in and up, you're leaving your pelvic floor open and your abs, because they're already separated a little bit, you're leaving, your abs open too. So without getting that good breathing pattern first, you are opening yourself up for more injury, and I just don't want that for you. So if you have more questions about this topic, if you're interested in maybe some coaching, I do virtual one-on-one coaching at a good rate because I think this stuff is just so important for women, and I want to not give you an excuse to not, get the help you need. So if this is something you need a little bit of coaching with, a little bit of help with, a lot of my clients do 4 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks with me, and we do it all virtual, all via Zoom. And babies are welcome, so you don't have to go to an appointment to meet with a physiologist. You don't have to leave your house. We can do this kind of work together via the internet. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and contact me. You can email me. You can check out my website. Also, I do have a self-paced breathing course. It's not specific to postpartum or pregnancy, but it is all the same type of information that you can do it yourself. That course right now is only $97. The link's below. So it's about 6 or so hours of breath work and breathing practices to help you reestablish that core, to really understand, why the breathing matters and what type of dysfunctional breathing patterns are we trying to avoid. Those types of things. So it's really informative, and you get to go at it at your own pace. So that's an option for you too. Anyways, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I hope that instead of jumping into, a high intensity exercise, that you take the time for you to restore your body slow, safe, and in a way that's going to support your mind too. So have a great day. Thank you for your time. This is Moksha. She says bye too. Bye.